Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and this is another one of my Living Consciously videos. I welcome you to this session. I'm going to be continuing speaking on Reiki. Reiki is a energy healing modality that I most associate with. I do have certification in many other healing modalities, but Reiki is the one that gives me the output that I feel is the most rewarding for every single person out there. And every one of my clients that comes to see me seems to trust it. I was gifted with a specific energy healing modality called Metatron's healing modalities, and I will demonstrate those at some later time. But today, I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of areas where Reiki will be a benefit to you. So, first of all, in terms of how does it work, I talked about this last week. The most important thing that you have to do is you have to set your intent. You set your intent to heal, and with that, it allows the energy to come in. What comes in? God's energy. It's absolutely free. It's available to all. You need an attunement to become part of the way of getting it. Although that I have seen, I have had students that actually were attuned to Reiki energy without them even knowing what they were doing. So that is absolutely possible. And the beauty with Reiki is that it has an intelligence of its own. You don't need a specific set of hand movements, the way Dr. Usui taught it, the way that it came in for him almost several hundred years ago. But you absolutely, by just setting your intent to heal, opening your crown chakra, the energy comes in for you. What does it do? It As it flows through you and out of your eyes, out of your heart, out of your hands, and eventually, as you continue working with it, out of every cell in your body, it replaces the old stagnant energy that is in the person that you're treating. Everything vibrates, everything has a biomagnetic field around it. Our bodies have a biomagnetic field that literally goes up through the dimensions all the way back to God. How many dimensions are there? My understanding is 342. If you add up the numbers 3, 4, 2, you get 9. 9 is the number of completion. So 9 comes full circle. 9 is the end. This is, and for those of you who add up your birth date, you might find that if you're in a 9 cycle, um, there's a finality to it, but we'll talk about that at another time. That's part of numerology. The healer's hands are magnetized, and effectively, as the Reiki comes into you and out of you, what are you transmitting? You are transmitting light. Nothing more complicated than that. Whose light? God's light. And your vibration and flow is going to affect the vibration and flow of the person that you are attempting to work on, that you are in the process of extending healing to. And the as your bright, clear Reiki energy comes through you, you then ask and have it affect the person who is lying there, and it displaces the stagnant energy of the person that has come in with problems. So that's the very first thing. Where do the problems appear in a person? They don't appear in your body first. They appear in your auric field first. They appear out there in your auric field. And then they sift down through the layers of your aura. Your physical body is the last place they hit. So a lot of times, if if the Reiki practitioner, if they're scanning in the auric field and they discover that they can feel prickliness, heaviness, tingling, waves of energy, however it comes through on their palms, either the top of their palms or the bottom of their palm, that then they know that's the area that they have to treat. That's the area. And there are times where I come in with Metatron's healing and I start doing some of his methods, and which is really, really fascinating. There is another benefit besides the light that comes in through you. In your mind's eye, in the mind's eye of the healer, images might appear. And those images can clue you in as to some of the pain that that person is carrying. I'll just go over a few of the images that remain pretty vivid in my mind's eye over the years. Um, I usually have images appear every time I have a customer or a client. Um, but the image that I felt was so striking was an image of a person, woman, with her head and her feet stuck into third, the solar plexus of a person, and that image went all the way down to the root. So, effectively, in the first three chakras. And that's where most of humanity lives, in your first three chakras. So I looked at the gal, and it was the same image. She had like striped stockings on, just the way that the image of the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz, as when the house fell on her, her feet were sticking out with the striped stockings. Well, this is basically what I saw. And I asked her, and I said, "Do you consider, or is your mother a real pain to you?" And I can be vulgar here, but I'm not going to be. But she knew exactly what I was saying. And she said, "Absolutely." So I immediately understood that the one of the causes of the issues that my client was dealing with was trying to rid herself of everything that the mother brought to the table. Every single exchange brought another time for angst. Didn't matter whether it was a phone call, didn't matter whether it was in person, didn't matter whether it was a joyous occasion, a sad occasion, there was angst involved. I've personally met people like that myself in my own life. And so I now know that the purpose of them being in my life was for me to understand how sometimes your inability to extricate yourself from that pain can be excruciating until you do. You always have a choice. Even when you think you don't have a choice, you have a choice. You can leave the situation. In one case, I knew that I never wanted to interact with that person again as long as I lived. And so that was my choice, and that's exactly what happened. So I I know it's difficult. I'm not saying this is easy, but it can be done. If a person like that exists in your life and they are poisoning every single minute that you interact with them, you do have to make up your mind that you're going to get rid of them. There was another example that I had. And in this case, this is many, many years ago, but the example was so striking, so vivid. I saw a Bedouin camp and I saw a mother plotting against every one of the other wives if there was a threat to the ascension of her child to be the favored of the Bedouin chieftain, she poisoned them. Well, as a result, in this lifetime, she was the mother of a little girl who had nothing but throat problems. So, effectively, and when I told her that, um, it was not with the purpose of making her feel guilty. It was just with the purpose of explaining a facet of the situation in terms of this past life and how it affected the current life. So, and because none of this work is designed to make, to put any kind of guilt trip on anybody. The other thing was in past lives can sometimes be so clarifying. You can see. I just had a client the other day, and this was all about relationships, and she was devastated over a relationship that kept coming back and leaving, and I'm talking about a period of over 40 years. So she was devastated over it. By giving her different bits and pieces of what happened in that lifetime, and the fact that she was basically reliving the same life, but now she was on the receiving end rather than the perpetrator. So it it didn't make it any easier for her to accept that, but at least she had a glimmer of understanding why she was experiencing what she did, what was happening to her, and why she had so much emotional turmoil with this relationship. Another one, and this had another example, this had to do with goal setting. And the beauty of this example was that I was able, when I saw this woman walking a tightrope, and effectively, as she's walking the tightrope, she has nothing to help her balance. All she has is her own two hands. And then there's one point where she flips in a 360-degree angle and she straightens up and balances. And she had some huge decisions to make in this lifetime. And at this moment in time, I could give her assurance that because she flipped 360 degrees, which effectively would have caused her to fall down, and straightened herself up, I could give her assurance that the new goals that she had set in place for herself were going to work out, because that's the way I interpreted it. So that was very, very dramatic, a very dramatic way. But this is the type of stuff that can happen over and over and over, because a gifted healer, will get images that can be used to help the client. So the most important thing that I feel, and this is why I gave up volunteering. I did 4 years of volunteering my services at in a hospital setting, and we were given strict instructions that we were not to share anything with the clients, anything at all. And I know that there were times where it it was that was so difficult for me to do, but it was one of their rules. So finally, after 4 years, I basically just said, "I can't do this anymore." And so I stopped in, working in this hospital setting. But and the sad thing was it was living with cancer, and, it was in the Inova Center in Fairfax, City, and it, I know that some of my, people there had very, very positive, healings, but, still, the fact that I could not share what I saw with them just made it impossible for me, because in your second auric field, in your second subtle body that is attached to your second chakra, that's where all your emotional turmoil lives. In your third subtle body, that's where all your mental problems live. And between the emotional and the mental, that's where most of the distortions lie. That's where people have the worst problems in their uh, in their energy field. So the not being able to share that with the client just made it too just became too extraordinarily difficult for me. And because again, by not sharing, I wasn't helping their understanding of what had happened to them, even though they felt better. Um, so, anyway, but you use your own discretion as to how you want to utilize the Reiki energy and whether you want to work in a program where you're not allowed to share anything. Again, the last couple of the last things that I wanted to share with you is that images beside like a movie screen showing up, individual images of certain things may come in for you. In some cases, I have images of flying saucers, and I ask them, have you felt like you're being contacted by other beings from other planets? And in every case, they say, absolutely. Or they've come to me specifically for that, but they didn't tell me that. But that's the first thing I see in my opening prayer with them. So I know that there is something with the um, other planets that I have to discuss with them. Many times, spirit guides come in. Spirit guides can be angels, can be archangels, can be ascended masters, can be ancestors, can be spiritual beings of light that have never had an earthly existence, can be things from your past lives, can be effectively your own past lives that are coming in to guide you. So I feel that when I get those images, that I can help the person understand how much help they have, especially when they're going through crisis. And who isn't going through crisis recently? Seems like every one of us has a crisis of some sort around every corner. Occasionally, too, a food item will come in or multiple food items, and I'll talk to them about their diet and ask them. And in some cases, they're existing on junk food. They like to snack. That's what they consider meals. And effectively, 10 meals a day, 6 meals a day. but junk food is too prevalent in their diet. So we have to talk about that. Occasionally, exercise. I will get an urge to talk about exercise. And with exercise, I'm the biggest proponent of walking. The first thing you've got to know about walking, you all know how to do it. You all know how to walk. So, unless you're in a wheelchair or unless you're laid up for whatever reason, walking is the absolute simplest thing for you to do to strengthen yourself. And beside that, when you're walking, I do not mean walk on a treadmill. Do that only in inclement weather. Walk outside, walk in nature. Focus on what is out there. Focus on the changing seasons. Focus on the animals that cross your path. Focus on the birds or the reptiles or the dragonflies that may come across you. But just take a look at the trees. I know when I was in Scotland, I had the very great pleasure of meeting a gal who introduced me to stone people, tree people, and dragons. And maybe next week's session is going to be on that because that was a super, super um, phenomenal time in my life. It was our trip on the to the Isle of Iona. But look at the trees. Feel the energy of the trees. See if you can't find a shape in the trees. If you have time, and this is something that Bismarck, one of the uh, heads of Prussia, when before it was Germany, his physician made him sit for a half hour a day with his back against a tree. Trees impart phenomenal wisdom. They are amongst the oldest beings on the planet. They're also amongst the tallest beings. Only thing taller than a tree is a mountain. So, and I'm talking about natural trees. So, anyway, not skyscrapers. Uh, but anyway, just learn to expand your horizons, expand your idea of what is available to you, and look for the beauty in everything. Every season has its own beauty. Even when all the leaves are down and the trees are bare, there is still a crispness in the air and there is still beauty. So, the whole point of walking, get out of your head. Just get out of your head and allow information to flow into you. Get into a state of contemplation. You might find that you are going to be much happier, much calmer, much more resolute about being able to tackle your problems instead of wanting to shriek and run away from your problems. So, anyway, I thank you for watching. I thank you for being here. And I'm going to finish up now. And before I leave, if you need a meditation book, one of the best is Own Your Power Day by Day. The special for December is that it's $24.99 for the hardcover, which is cheaper than the soft cover. And it is free shipping and handling, the same as the Amazon. It's available on my website or through Amazon if you insist on going through Amazon. But my website is Alicia, ALICJA, Jones, JONES.com. I bless you and I thank you for being here and stay safe on your journey.